Let's go. Hey, y'all. Welcome to CrossPolitic on a Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox, the Water Boy. It's good to be with you. Do you believe dark money or like a shadow government is controlling after COVID? I mean, at this point,
I believe anything.
Exactly. I think women can now smoke while pregnant now after COVID. I mean, everything changed for me.
That's not what I was going to go. I wasn't going to go to that one.
I got Bill out.
Wow, COVID messed you up.
It messed me up. I think women can tap Virginia Slims while they're pregnant.
I was going to say something like UFOs or, I don't know. I don't know what else I believe in now.
Yeah.
But that's not my pick.
I can believe CNN can give a fair and balanced interview now.
Oh.
Whoa. COVID didn't do that.
Wow. Well, we're grateful to have with us Mr. Scott Walter. He's president of Capital Research Center. He served in the George W. Bush administration as special assistant to the president for domestic policy and was vice president at the Philanthropy Roundtable, editing Philanthropy Magazine, producing donor guidebooks on assistance to poor, school reform, public policy, research, and other topics. He's also written for and been quoted in such outlets as the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Chronicle of Philanthropy. Georgetown graduate. He served as senior fellow at the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty. And as senior editor of AEI's flagship publication. And
he sounds like he's the problem. No. He sounds like he's part of dark money.
he lives in Virginia with his wife and 4 kids. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Great to be with you.
So you've got this book with the Dark Money Network of Leftist Billionaires secretly transforming America.
Yeah.
Why did you write this book?
Well, you left out the main title, which is Arabella.
Yes.
Right? And Arabella Advisors runs that network. It's a for-profit that runs nonprofits as a network. And it takes in billions of dollars every election cycle. And you've probably never heard of it. That's why it needs a book, right? You got a political operation doing billions of dollars per cycle, much more than the official Democrat and Republican national machines take in. Mm-hmm. But folks have not heard about it. So they do a lot of stuff and you need to know about it.
Can you like give us a comparison? So compared to regular donation, piles of money.
I mean, I thought Kamala Harris had a lot of money. When she became the
what's the comparison? You say it's a lot more. What's the comparison?
Got an easy one for you. So we'll start with the 2020 cycle. So that's 19 and 20.
Yep.
The nonprofits at Arabella took in $2.4 billion in revenue. Now in 22, surely that went down, right? That's an off year. Yeah. It's not the huge Trump re-election battle. Blah blah. Surely they had to go down. No, it wasn't 2.4. It was $3 billion. Now, let me give you a comparison. Yeah. If you take the Democrat National Committee, the Republican National Committee, the Democrat House and Senate committees, the Republican House and Senate committees, all 6 of those together were $400 million less than what Arabella took in.
Okay. What was Kamala Harris's fund when she undemocratically became the presidential nominee?
Like 1.4 or something.
Yeah, she got around $1.5 billion.
Yeah,
around $1.5 billion.
Okay. So still half as much.
Well, to be fair, that was Biden's money.
It was. Well, but it wasn't Biden's money because Biden wasn't president.
So, thank you, Gabe. This is a different show.
It is. It's true.
So, Scott, I mean, zoom out here. For our audience, what do you mean by dark money? First of all, what do we mean by that?
Yeah. Well, the term was coined by the left, and originally it only meant money going through a particular kind of nonprofit, the 501c4s. Those are political nonprofits. 2 easy examples on the right: National Rifle Association; on the left, League of Conservation Voters. Yeah. Right, but it's morphed to mean sort of like any money where you're not really sure. Where was the start of this money, right? And Arabella excels at that because you have your billionaires like Gates and Zuckerberg and Soros and Omidyar and ones you've never heard of like Hans-Jörg Wyss and whatnot. They write checks to Arabella's nonprofits, but then the nonprofits have literally hundreds of projects. and you have no idea, where did that Gates money go? Which one of those hundreds of projects got the Gates money? No idea.
So why did you focus on Arabella? Because I mean, like, when I think of dark money, I think of like George Soros and all his nonprofits, or his people that he partners with and networks with. Why not George Soros?
Well, George Soros, it sounds like, pretty well, right? So Soros, there are books about Soros out there. There are no books about Arabella. Nobody had found it until, I'm very proud of my team at Capital Research Center. They're the first ones ever to have written about Arabella, left, right, or center. And Soros is one of the biggest donors to the Arabella network. So you think you know Soros, but if you don't know that he uses the Arabella network in a lot of ways, then you don't really know Soros.
Okay, so how bad is this? It sounds like you're raising the flag here and saying, hey, this is probably one of the worst examples of how dark money is funding or being used. Would you say this is one of the top problems here in these kind of organizations?
There is no entity that is as big as Arabella on left or right. So that, first of all, that matters. Second, again, they've managed mostly to hide. They've not been covered properly. The average American has heard of Soros, hasn't heard of them.
Okay, so I think it's important. Actually, the distinction you laid out at the very beginning, there's actually a for-profit on top of all the nonprofits. That's the structure. Yeah. So the nonprofits get the money, and then this is my guess here, and then they contract with the for-profit to do the work. Is that a lot of that happening?
You got a future in the dark money world. No, that's exactly the way it happened. I usually explain it like, think of a pyramid, and at the top you've got Arabella Advisors, a for-profit consulting firm, Beltway Bandit, we call them around here, right? Yeah. They created everything below them in the pyramid. In the middle of the pyramid, you have half a dozen nonprofits of different legal types to get different kinds of money and do different kinds of work. And then at the base of the pyramid, you have what your viewers see. And that's Floridians for a Fair Shake, secure Michigan elections, keep Iowans healthy. And literally, as I said, hundreds of those fake groups. Now, they want you to think it's your fellow citizens upset about something. In fact, it's some goofball at a little tiny veal pen desk in DC who's concocted a new website and bought some Facebook ads.
Yeah. So then what is it that they want to transform America into from what you see?
Well, it's the standard left-wing transformation, right? I think the easiest or the clearest way to look at it is, I am not aware that they have ever done anything that has taken power away from Washington, D.C., and helped move it back towards states, localities, neighborhoods, families, right?
Well, I don't see Republicans doing that either.
Well, hey, I live outside. I know my resume probably sounded very dubious there, but I actually live outside the Beltway in America, for what it's worth. Yeah. But so yes, neither party has covered themselves in glory at all. Yeah. But my only point, but occasionally, at least occasionally, at least somebody on the right will say they want to have some decentralized power. These people don't even pretend. Yeah. It's all about DC. And I think the reason for that is that if you're a billionaire who wants to control, right? Can I go back to St. Augustine with you good guys?
Let's go.
Libido dominandi, right? The lust for power, control, domination, right? That's a powerful thing that we all are tempted by. And if you got $1 billion or more, it's a bigger temptation. Yeah. So you want that power centralized in DC, so it's easier for you to manipulate the folks in power.
Yeah. So Scott, what do you hope would be the outcome? I mean, I understand that maybe initially this is just
the exposure,
raising awareness. But what do you think should be done about this? Or I mean, is it just awareness? Should this, is what they're doing illegal? Should it be illegal?
Well, let's see. Those are excellent questions, but they're multiple questions. So let me take the are they doing anything illegal? Okay. Yeah. There are some places where eyebrows with Arabella would get raised. And with we study all the nonprofit world. So there's, Arabella is a huge chunk, but not all of it.
Yeah.
There definitely are left-wing nonprofits outside Arabella that very much look to be violating nonprofit laws, and deserve to be properly investigated. The thing with Arabella is, in theory, everything they're doing could be legal, but the laws are complicated. You got to cross a lot of T's and dot a lot of I's, and be very buttoned up not to break those laws.
Yeah.
And I suspect that they actually are not always good about that. And there's a major lawsuit. There's a former Black woman who worked for part of Arabella. She's got a major lawsuit against them. And what she has put on the record already strongly suggests that they were violating nonprofit laws, because they had a 501c3 charity controlling, it looks like, a 501c4 political nonprofit, and that is not kosher.
Yeah.
They fired her.
Like
they shut down the nonprofit that looks dirty. So,
but what you're arguing there is like really what they're breaking is like tax laws, maybe some sort of IRS code problems. That's what you're arguing.
Didn't that destroy the mafia?
Pardon me?
I'm just saying, didn't it destroy the mafia? That was enough to destroy them.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, but basically, it's a tax issue. It's not like they're murdering people.
No, that's right. That's right. Now, other big issues are in the case of Soros. We know, thanks to the Soros leaks, we have internal documents from his foundation. They were trying to manipulate elections in other countries, which is, again, wildly illegal by the tax code, and regime change and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, often with USAID, your tax dollars, USAID, so you can be proud of that.
Yeah.
They weren't real fond of Christians around the world, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And then another two big areas in the broader nonprofit sector that are cry out for something to be dealt with. One is the lefties for decades have been using nonprofit money and nonprofit groups to do their get out the vote work, which again, totally illegal under the tax code.
Yeah.
And then now this is the most nasty, and this gets into, people ought to be thrown behind bars. We have a great report called Marching Towards Violence, and it's about it's 150 left-wing groups that they haven't criticized Israel or said we don't like American foreign policy. That I'm not talking about, just that. I'm talking about they have endorsed terrorism. We very carefully documented in the report. Have fun with all 700 plus footnotes, and that absolutely is illegal. And of course, it means they're mixed up in various amounts of domestic terrorism, like here in D.C. When they had the riot at Union Station just off Capitol Hill, the big old railway station. They burned the American flag. They put up the Palestinian flag. They assaulted people. They destroyed property. Those kinds of things people should, be locked up for.
Yeah.
It's criminal.
Yeah. It's absolutely criminal.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of two questions here. And you're already answering some of this, but it sounds like the funding is going towards largely some sort of political action or political influence, maybe, get out the vote kind of stuff. Why aren't conservatives building and organize a massive, change agent organization like this with all with the for-profit at top and all nonprofits below?
Well, one thing to remember is the left is the party of the rich, right? You have to say that a lot. It makes their heads explode. And it happens to be true. So in part,
I guess that doesn't affect me. Like deal, the left is a party of the rich. I mean, we got a lot of rich people on our side. That it's what you do with it, I guess. Go ahead.
No. Well, you're totally right. I mean, but I will say there are a lot of billionaires that all have the same last name, Foundation, and with the painful irony that usually the money was made by some rock-ribbed conservative, right? But then the left captured it because they're greedy,
right.
And so it matters. Arabella would not be where it is without the Ford Foundation and Open Society Foundation and MacArthur Foundation and on and on and on. That is not an insignificant thing. They have a huge money advantage. And the second thing is that the more specific question of why haven't somebody built an empire like that? Actually, there is somebody who had a nonprofit empire, not nearly as big as Arabella, but has a nonprofit empire of sorts. And when he read our Arabella report, he reorganized his empire to work that way. And in the press release announcing he was doing this, he linked to our Arabella report. And that's Leonard Leo. You may have heard of him in the first Trump administration. He was the judge whisperer. He was the one helping Trump pick justices and judges, longtime leader at the Federalist Society.
Wow. Okay.
That's interesting. One of the things that came out of watching USAID fall apart or getting Doge getting their hands inside of it and see some of the books was that we had a lot of propped up fights that weren't real, but they were manipulated because of the money that they were using.
Give me an example what you're thinking.
So, you saw all the people's rioting stopped. You start seeing money that was going to other places in other countries. All the abortion clinics shut down in one place. They stopped getting their condoms. You start seeing so many different things. And the thing is, for me, hearing about this is that if there's money going to kind of like a communist way of thinking, if we can create tensions around here and then we get these people excited about it, then we can have a faux type of poking at the institutions that's hard to make them collapse, right? But it's encouraging in one sense because it's all drummed up, right? It's not real. It's all fake, and they're just
saying like maybe a BLM, right? It's actually more fake than
it's juiced up, and it's juiced up. And so a lot of the things, it's kind of interesting to think about that because I'm thinking, okay, if it's not real, they're using people's moms for kids not scraping their knees. Let's start a campaign for that, right? Yeah. And they put millions of money behind it to be able to get political power or whatever. There's no existence of that real thing. How do you fight that then?
Well, so that was actually one of your good questions earlier. So I do want the authorities to crack down where people are wildly violating laws. I also certainly want your tax dollars to be cut off. But I will say that it is important to realize what you are doing now is not, I forget what word you use, but exposure or whatever. I mean, that matters because here's one of the things. Most of the Arabella operation is the way I described with all those silly fake groups, right? Mm-hmm. That is a Wizard of Oz operation. Now, remember the movie. At the beginning of the movie, the wizard is big and scary and he really affects Dorothy's behavior. But at the end of the movie, when you pull the curtain back and you see it's the old guy at a microphone, it doesn't affect her behavior very much anymore, does it? So, to the extent you can say what Knox was making the point there, to the extent you can show, hey, that's fake, well, a lot of controversies diminish. You don't have as much of this nonsense.
Right. When if you think of like BLM riots and that kind of thing, if it's like this is just propped up, then it doesn't need to drive your policy. It doesn't need to, you don't like, what are you responding to? We're just responding. This is just
to paid actors.
Yeah, paid actors.
And Scott, what I'm thinking about too is I'm thinking about political energy. One of the things they're doing is they're dividing our energy so that, we're playing whack-a-mole with them the whole time, right? This over here, we got that's not even a real case. And we actually do all the deep research and the data to find out there's not a bunch of kids out there scraping their knees, right? But while we're over here doing this, they've distracted us from being focused in the place that we really need to put our energy. And so it's a win for them, whether or not they actually get the legislation passed because our energy is divided. And so I'm thinking about how do we go about saying, okay, let's not give our time to this or not give our time to that, because that's all dark money.
Yep. Well, it's also, I will say, you have to appreciate too, they are incredibly good at organizing, which really just means, getting more people to your cause and getting them to do what you want them to do, right? So the more issues that they can come up with, the better, because different issues will pull in different people.
Right.
But then if you actually, like we do at Capital Research Center, you study the left, you realize, wait a minute, this is an environmental group, but they're going on about the Palestinians. right? So I mean, what the idea is once they grab people and pull them in to the left, then they're going to feed them every single issue. And they may not really have cared about abortion much before, but now they do because their group has stuck that into their heads with everything else.
How long do you think this play in Democratic circles has been going on, whether it's a Arabella or not?
Arabella.
Or not?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing. Arabella gets started in 2005, very tiny. It was basically out of a guy's basement, effectively. And something else happens in 2005 too, and that's the Democracy Alliance is founded. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that one.
No,
but that is a cabal of billionaires and centimillionaires founded by George Soros back in 2005 and still going on. And it's 2005, right? So what had just happened? It was Soros and Peter Lewis, who owned Progressive Insurance, another billionaire. The two of them started in 2005. Why? Because those two billionaires had each just put $27 million apiece into the Democratic Party machinery, right? To the DNC and the presidential campaign and all. Now, even a billionaire gets hacked off if he, cuts a $27 check and gets no return on that investment, right?
That's right.
They were angry that the Democratic Party, as they saw it, had failed them by letting the greatest tyrant the world had ever seen, George W. Bush, get reelected. And so, so they listened to a guy who for a few years had been saying, hey, the reason the conservatives do so well is because they have these nonprofit think tanks and stuff, and that's why they're beating us. So they listened to him, and they created the Democracy Alliance by gathering in about 100 of their, ultra wealthy pals, and saying, look, you need to be writing checks not into the party apparatus. You need to be writing it into the nonprofits and even building up more nonprofit infrastructure. So in a way, that's, there had been lefty nonprofit stuff, God knows, for a long time.
Yeah.
But in a way, that was a big tipping point to we do that. And by the way, here's a quick thing for why do billionaires like nonprofits better than parties, in addition to the fact that the party had failed them? Because if you're George Soros or Pierre Omidyar, well, the Democratic Party will do what you want most, 70%, 80% of the time. But once in a while, because of those nasty little things called voters, the party may have to not do exactly what you want.
Yeah.
But guess what? If you're writing a check to a nonprofit, the percentage of time they do just what you want is 100.
So, we've already pressed this question just a little bit, but I'm for fighting honestly, politically, and legally. I'm all for that. But I'm also, as part of that, I think I'm just as much for fighting in creative ways like this organization set up. So what do you think is like the conservative solution and need in all this? Instead of just analyzing and pointing it out and exposing it like what you've done, what do we do?
Well, you're right. You absolutely should learn from the other side, right? The other side figures out a new weapon. You should find a way to get yourself that weapon. So, and Leonard Leo was the first and the biggest to, sort of copy the Arabella structure here. But the Conservative Partnership Institute in DC, I believe, does some fiscal sponsorships. I think that tool is getting used more. And then the other thing to remember, because, I admit I make people pretty depressed when I rattle off these gigantic numbers from the Party of the Rich, but here's the thing, right? About 3/4 of Americans agree with at least 3/4 of what all of us on this table believe, right? The left's greatest trick has been preventing people from knowing that, right?
Yeah.
So that's another case for, the new media, would American politics be the same if you hadn't had lots of new media in these recent years? Right? I mean, the Joe Rogans and you guys and all the rest. I mean,
us and Joe.
So no, but I mean, well, let's put it this way. On 2016, the morning after the election, you saw all those, the videos of Facebook and Google and Twitter, they're all sobbing and they're all blaming themselves. And I think they were right. They were to blame because social media lets Americans talk to each other without gatekeepers, right?
Yeah.
And that is disastrous for the left. Because on most major things like boys and girls sports, right? That's an 80-20 issue. Voter ID, that's an 80-90% issue. I mean, all these things the left is hysterical about are overwhelmingly on the other side for the American public. So, that's why they had to go into the censorship, machinery so hard.
So Scott, I'm gonna level.
Well, there's some, hold on.
You're hugging the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Scott ain't yours.
You guys,
we are part of this.
I'm getting drummed up here. Let's go.
You want to go first?
What I have to say is really quickly. I'm just noticing how arrogant our enemy is.
Yeah. That
they hear 80 or 90% issues against them, and they're like,
we can change that.
Yeah. Right, juice the skids, guys. We found our target,
and then they have the audacity to call that democracy.
Right?
Yes.
Like, that's amazing.
This is democracy.
Yes,
y'all do what I say. I wanted to ask about you alluded to this earlier, that a number of the biggest funders of Arabella are legacy foundations with conservative and even religious roots. Ford, MacArthur. So kind of two questions, like how did we get from, I mean, not only then are we majority conservative Christian country in terms of what you're saying, like our convictions are that way, boys are boys, girls are girls, this kind of basic stuff. But that means that a lot of the people that are working and making money in this country really are conservatives and Christians. How do you go from, this broadly Christian philanthropy to this being taken over and stolen by these leftist groups, and how do we stop that from happening again?
Well, one thing that I didn't used to believe this, but I do now, and that is there probably should be a law limiting the life of foundations, right? I certainly will tell you, if you have serious money, don't you dare set up a perpetual foundation. Right? Give while you live, and then figure out the best places for your money to go on the issues you care about, and leave it to them in your will. Don't leave it to a foundation where your grandchildren's wives will take it over, or what that kind of awfulness. So that's one thing. But the other thing, it is hard, right? It's inherently hard. Like all those Doge cuts that are totally sensible, but on the other hand, on your taxes or mine, what is that? A few pennies, maybe, right? So, and we don't even know it. I mean, that is to say, we know it, but your pals down the street who aren't as obsessively following this stuff, they don't even know that they saved a few cents, or why. Whereas the people who lost the millions of dollars, they're powerfully aware and active and fighting.
That's a good point.
And so that's just inherently that's a huge problem. The other huge problem is, if you are a nice Christian mom or dad, well, yeah, you got to worry about how we're going to keep the business going, and what about Johnny's, not doing well in math, and I mean, I get paid to do this 24/7, right? Not many people get paid to understand all these complex things. And by the way, the complexity is part of it. Like Soros changes the names of his biggest entities, every 5 or 10 years. I'm convinced, just to make it both harder for me to follow, and then really hard for me to, if I have to explain it to you, well, you see, 15 years ago, there was this, and then 10,
right.
Normal people's eyes glaze over.
It's the cup game. Where's it
now?
Where is it now? Where's the peanut?
Yes. So it's never going to be easy, right? But last I checked, for a Christian, picking up your cross every day is part of the job description.
It is the duty of the free man to resist tyranny at every turn. Every man will either watch his freedom stripped away or take action to protect what he loves. Introducing the A3, the newest revolutionary body armor from Armored Republic. The A3 is the new standard for lightweight multi-hit body armor. A3 plates are incredibly light at 4.6 pounds. The patented design captures fragmentation while remaining multi-hit capable. The A3 will stop up to M80 ball, yet comes in at only 0.7 inches thick. The A3 is the thinnest NIJ .06 compliant or certified composite standalone plate that includes the drop test. The A3 is the first of its kind, patent pending, that combines an alloy strike face with polyethylene backing, revolutionizing body armor technology by providing strength and durability while remaining sleek and maneuverable. The A3 is the new standard in lightweight body armor. The fight against tyranny just got stronger.
Are there, I mean, as you did this work, you know, are there lessons that, you know, you're learning, you're thinking about, and maybe this is just what you just said a minute ago, but like, you know, how can we do better? I mean, how can conservatives and Christians, you know, we've on this show, we've talked about it a ton, but like, you know, we are historically a deeply Bible believing country. And that means that we lost it. Like we've lost it.
It was this,
and
now it's not.
And now, you know, you say something, you know, plain Jane about, you know, something that, you know, even 50 years ago would have been vanilla Christianity, and people look at you like you just blasphemed.
Yeah. You want a Christian nation again?
You know, but I mean, are there any other general lessons that you take away from your work here where you say this is a lesson that, you know, conservatives and Christians need to learn again, or we need to recover?
Yeah, well, for every person of faith, right, the stricture is you're not supposed to be of the world, but you are supposed to be in the world, right? You have that responsibility. And it would be nicer to ignore all this and not fight, and a lot of people do. And that's another reason to centralize power. People feel a lot more powerless now than they did 60 years ago, because there is a lot less power in their local communities, right? But you know, there's no choice. We are called to be, right, the salt and the light. And so, sorry, you're going to have, this has got to be on the to-do list, paying attention, helping to fight. And then for the leaders of this, who do get to spend a lot more time on it, they need to be studying the left, both to understand their enemy, and then, yes, as you were saying earlier, also to learn, you know, to learn some tactics, strategies, and tools that enemy has. Now, I'll give you a good example. Just in the last few years, the conservative world has figured out, yes, early voting is not a wonderful thing in itself, but, you know, in principle, but we're going to have to duplicate what the left does in early voting to have any, you know, otherwise they win, right? So one of the things I say is I hate early voting, but as long as early voting only benefits the left, it ain't going to be controversial and it ain't going to be changed.
Yeah.
The only way you make a difference is you put it in their face. And then, by the way, this happened in Southern California. Around San Diego is about the only place you have conservatives or Republicans in California in any numbers. And they lost 10 state legislative seats when the lefties put ballot harvesting legal in California. Yeah. Well, the folks in San Diego decided, well, I guess we got to do that then. And they did, and they won 7 of the 10 seats back. Did you know there were now people who think it's highly controversial that there should be ballot harvesting in California?
I see the strategy here.
Yeah.
So you know, that's that. You sometimes to eradicate something bad, you have to duplicate it temporarily.
Yeah. So Scott, I'm going to ask you this question, but you need to get to plug first. But this is probably going to be not a very nice question.
Oh, really? You're going to ask?
I don't know if Scott's going to like it or not. I'm just going to say I'm from Texas. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm from where the real Texans all came from, East Tennessee.
Oh, boy.
That's it.
All right, I'm going to read this out, and then we'll come right back with that not so nice question. In a garden long ago, our first parents fell to the Dark Lord's deception, sparking a cosmic war between light and darkness. Today, that battle rages in the hearts of the young, future warriors in a struggle as old as time. Dark forces cloak their lies in promises of peace, wielding imperial government schools to mold your children into minions of a godless empire. Yet hope rises. Nearly 10 million kids have escaped, trained by parents in faithful Christian schools in the ways of the light. The resistance is growing, so join us. Fight Laugh Feast 2025 is in October 16th through the 18th at Rocketown in Nashville, Tennessee. Hey, where Scott's from.
Hey.
The faithful gather to strategize and rally, train the young to launch them into battle. This is a conference for parents, for pastors, for teachers, for school administrators, for everyone who knows that the battle is over our kids. School wars, rebuilding Christendom with our kids. Go to fightlaughfeast.com and register today. Doug Wilson will be there. David Bonson will be there. Larry Taunton will be there. Ben Merkel will be there. Who am I missing?
Maybe Scott.
Virgil
Maybe Scott
Walker. Maybe Scott will be there. Go to fightlaughfeast.com. Register now. Looking forward to seeing you there. You find yourself turning on the news and feeling hopeless? Woke agendas, open borders, inflation, the list goes on. There's something you can do. Buy from companies that believe what you and I believe. We need to stick together now more than ever. And there has been one company willing to stand with you since 2012. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They offer the very best nationwide 4G and 5G coverage on all their networks. In fact, they use the same towers as all the major carriers. Patriot Mobile has service plans to fit any budget, and their 100% US-based customer support team provides exceptional customer support. Good. More importantly, Patriot Mobile shares your values and supports organizations fighting for religious freedom, your constitutional rights, the sanctity of life, and our veteran and first responder heroes. So switch to Patriot Mobile today and get free activation with the offer code CrossPolitic. So you just go to patriotmobile.com/CrossPolitic and use the promo code CrossPolitic.
They're actually sponsoring our corporate partner dinner this year in Nashville.
Good people.
Yeah,
and look at that book cover. I just noticed that. Arabella. That just looks
dangerous.
Just looks creepy.
That's
okay,
dope.
Scott, I want to level with you.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
I think my generation, so I'm 46. Apparently I'm like a millennial.
No, you're a Gen X.
I'm a Gen X. That's
Yeah.
right. I'm a Gen X. I was born before the millennials or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, but I think my generation was the first generation that started getting skeptical of all politicians. And I grew up in Texas, where every politician would shake your hand, and I vote conservative. I would never vote leftist. But I don't trust politicians. And then, and so this whole dark money thing, actually, I blame Republicans for a lot of Democratic gain in our culture and our society, because Republicans have basically, in my mind, have not been very courageous Republicans. We really have a courage problem in our party, and I would say, and this even more so in the church. I mean, the evangelical pulpit's full of cowards.
They're just imitating their pastors.
Yeah. So the politicians are really just imitating their pastors. So I have that. I voted for George Bush, but I don't trust him anymore. I don't. When I saw him campaigning on the COVID vaccine with Obama and Biden and Clinton, trying to get everybody to get vaxxed and all that stuff, I was like, look at these. Conservatives just can't even push back on a stupid vaccine. And so, which is, I think this plays into, in my mind, it plays into why we're so impotent in all our plays. Is because we don't really do what we say. And so we don't, conservatives, giving money to Republican causes, I have such a hard time with that, because I'm like, well, I think we should build some sort of, I keep saying abuela, but it's, but it's not. Arabella. I think Republicans should absolutely do that. I think it's a great way to fight back and create that kind of infrastructure.
And in 5 minutes, it'd be stolen by the leftists.
Probably, yeah. Well, that'd be my concern too. So I know you aren't in. I'm not trying to get on you for your being assistant to George Bush, kind of thing.
Or are you?
Maybe I don't know. I guess I just have this distrust, and it's plays that I want to help run. It's plays that I would love to be involved with, but I just don't trust our conservatives to even do it in a way that I don't think they're part of the dark money problem too. Does that question make sense?
I think so. I mean, look, the one thing I will give the left credit for is that they never give up. They're the Freddy Krueger of American politics, right? They can have a devastating defeat. The next morning, they're back fighting. Now, keep in mind it's a complicated thing. They're fighting like that because politics is their religion, right?
Yes, right.
They have religious fanaticism in politics.
Yeah.
And way too many Christians don't take seriously our Lord's cleansing the temple, right? Most of the time, he was a pretty nice guy, but there are times, you got to run the scoundrels out of the temple.
Yeah.
So,
but I guess part of my argument is like, I feel like my side of the party has almost just as much scoundrels, which is why I'm so hesitant to want to like start an Arabella situation, let's say, with our Republican Party.
Well, this is why there's only one real reform. People come up with all kinds of gimmicky reforms. There's only one reform, and that is less power in Washington, less government. Period. All the little
Bush didn't do that. But that's my point. Is Bush didn't do that?
Yeah, no. Well, sadly,
he empowered the federal government. He gave us TCA, TSA, the Patriot Act. He doubled the Department of Education's budget under No Child Left Behind, which is one of the worst legislations I've ever seen as a Republican. So he actually grew that. And what's hilarious with Trump. So I voted for Bush, and I'm not trying to turn this into an argument about Bush per se. I'm trying to make a broader point. I voted for Bush, but I didn't vote for Trump the first time because he had been divorced 3 times. He at some point was pro-abortion and then not pro. Somehow he became pro-life through, I don't know, whatever transformation happened. So I just didn't trust him. He was in that category, like I can't trust you. But then now I'm like,
but then he appointed like 3,
Pete Hegseth and
Supreme Court justices
stuff, all this stuff, and he's actually dealing with the Department of Education that Bush doubled the funding in. He's actually dealing with a lot of the problems that are the guy I voted for created. And so now I'm like, okay, I did vote for Trump this last time because I was like, okay, he's actually doing things that I wish, my boys, but again, I'm a Texan.
You mean the last 2 times?
Yes, he won the last 2 elections. This is 3rd term. So again, I guess I want to run these plays. I want to do these things, but I feel
I know Scott may have a thought on this, but I'm going to tell you my thought is I think also we all have learned some lessons. I mean, I think that's why Trump got elected in a certain way. And I'm with you. I wasn't sure about him the first time either.
Yeah.
But I think Trump got elected because people actually came to believe that he was going to do what he said he was going to do, or at least he was going to try.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think he got elected to this, second.
And then Russia collusion happens and all this stuff.
But I think the reason why he got overwhelmingly reelected now,
his 3rd term,
his 3rd term, is I think actually because a lot of people are sick and tired of a feckless Republican Party that doesn't follow through and that just is a Democrat light.
Yeah,
I mean that's my thought, and I think it's stuff like. I mean, the fact that we're having books like this published and we're saying like, look, this is how they're doing it. This is what they're doing and exposing this. I think you can't like turn your brain off and you can't stop being skeptical of, as what Scott's pointing out, like power screws people up.
Yeah.
I mean, like money screws people up, like the love of money, the love of power. These things screw people up.
Yeah.
And decent people get chewed up by this stuff.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, that's why you expose it. I mean, you expose the unfruitful works of darkness.
Ephesians 5,
and that's part of the work of bringing reformation. Is you point it out. You say this is what they're doing.
Okay, that's very helpful, Scott. Let me ask you this question based off that.
Scott didn't get a chance to answer the last one.
No, Scott. If this might help me, maybe trust you a little more. I don't know. is if you were to write this same book about the Republican Party, where would you start?
Well, see, this is the thing. Arabella works hand in glove with the Democratic Party, but there's nothing on the right that works hand in glove like that with the Republican Party, right? The closest you could come to is Charles Koch's network, but they've been estranged from the party ever since 2016 because they hate Trump.
Right.
So they're just
not the same.
Yeah.
It's not it's just not the same. The other thing is, again, too, the left has that religious fervor because they don't have religion, right? They transfer their religious fervor to politics.
Yeah.
And then, but the other thing is that the left, they aspire to be part of the Borg, right? They love it. They feel cozy when they're in the Borg, right? Whereas, of course, we're fierce I know what Texans are like. Fierce individuals, right? Not easy to corral us. So that's another, but that's not a terrible thing, right? I mean, it's good you don't want to be part of a Borg.
Yeah.
So, that's a trickier thing.
Is there I don't know if you've at all heard of there's a book, a friend of ours, Megan Basham, she's a Christian journalist who wrote a book recently called Shepherds for Sale. Are you familiar with that at all?
I sure am. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
Kelly Kullberg, another person who's fought that kind of thing. Rent a pastor, as they call it.
Yeah, right. So I'm wondering, like, it's kind of a follow-up to Gabe's question, though. Is like, so she traces how all these leftist groups have been infiltrating evangelicalism and churches. And it's kind of a dark money thing too, where there's like this funding coming. I think some of it's Soros money and other things, where they're getting Christians to slowly sidle up to leftist causes on environmentalism or sexuality or healthcare, all these kind of things. And so that's a play sort of direct, or at least there's maybe a couple shell groups before they get to the church, and of course the church is not exactly the Republican Party, but do you see that? I mean, in terms of the conservative wing of the country, are there Republicans for sale, so to speak?
Yeah.
You mean Republicans for sale to the lefties?
Yeah,
no, our Republicans like Shepherds for Sale for the church, where we think they're conservative evangelical and the leftists are buying them. Are there Republicans for sale in the Democratic Party or in the Republican Party where they're being bought off at some level, some shape or form?
Maybe not to become full-blown leftists, but I guess being
pushed,
being
pulled.
being cozying up to leftist causes.
Yeah, one of the biggest pushes in this area is for ranked choice voting.
Oh, so bad,
and which is an idiocy, as well as a bad thing, but both. And there are a lot of different Republican groups mixed up in that. There's, I have to call out Orrin Cass of American Compass, supposedly a new type of conservative, right? But on the other hand, getting lots of money from the Hewlett Foundation, which of course is one of the biggest enviro and population control places, and some other bad lefty groups. Because they think his newfangled economics and his love of labor unions is a great thing. So they are giving him money. So I think he's sincere about, but I also think that you should realize if those people want to give you money, you probably are not making the country a better place.
That's good.
I just got to ask you before you go, you've worked in a presidential administration before. If you were to go back and work underneath Trump's administration, where would you want to be at? What would you want to do? And why would you want to be there?
Well, I think I'd want to be in Doge, frankly, because they're the ones trying to dig deep into all this.
Yeah.
Do you think Doge is going to make it?
Well, they remember they created Doge offices in all of the departments. Right. Very similar, actually, to the faith-based initiative under George W., where they created, each department would get its own entity as well as there being a central one at the White House. And So I think they will keep digging, and I think, you know, I was talking to OMB people today. I think that that is still very much on the administration's radar, that there's all this money. And plus, I testified to Congress 3 times in the last couple of months, all on lefty nonprofits. So I think there's some momentum for the lefty nonprofit world is a really important thing to go after.
So is Bezos still going to allow your book to be on Amazon, or do we have to go get it from somewhere else?
It is on Amazon.
Okay.
So you're quite welcome to it. And can I give you on the general thing about, you know, I'm not sure I should be fighting, because I'm not sure if the other conservatives and political folks will do right by me.
Please.
T.S. Eliot, brilliant Christian, I think had the right thing on this, which is the war is God's problem. Your and my problem is just to fight the battle wherever the good Lord happens to put us. And it's up to him who wins the war. But we have the duty to fight where he puts us. And as long as there is still one person fighting, no war is over.
That's good. That's good work, Scott. Appreciate you.
We end with T.S. Eliot. I'm cool with that.
You're cool with that?
I'm cool with that.
Everybody needs to go buy Arabella by Scott Walter.
Why it's still on Amazon?
Yeah.
Well, and part of this is like conservatives need to know. The average conservative, right, is not paying attention.
No,
that's right.
True.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Scott's point. I mean, we got so many other more important things we're doing. Like we're raising kids, and we're building churches and schools and businesses and all this kind of stuff. And this isn't our religion.
Follow the money.
But I think so often, but that doesn't mean you don't have a duty there.
Yeah, these wars are at our doorstep right now.
We got to stand there and fight. Scott, really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.